know after you've gone through all those long, hard, cold, wet months of winter, all you want is just a little bit of sunshine? That's what these books are. Hello beautiful people of the internet, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and I'm so excited that you've joined me today. I'm going to be bringing you springtime in the form of books. So winter is finally over, I think, in Tennessee. I think maybe, who knows, Tennessee can never make up its mind what it wants to do as far as weather. But the sunshine has been out, it's been warm, and I'm just, I'm wanting all the spring vibes. So today, I'm going to be telling you all the books that I think are perfect to read in the springtime. So let's get started. I've actually made like an entire spread for spring books in my reading journal. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at this guy. So when I think of spring books, I tend to think of books that just bring me joy. Books that just plain and simply made me happy. The first couple of books is actually a series, and that is the Tea Dragon Society series. This series is a graphic novel series, and it's just based around this society that has these tea dragons. So basically tea dragons grow little antlers and they're branches for tea leaves, and every so often they harvest their tea leaves and make tea. And in this series you kind of just meet different characters and they're all linked together somehow. Oh my goodness, if you just ever want a cute, feel good, just adorable little read, please pick these up. It doesn't take long at all to get through all three books. I mean, they're graphic novels and they're very short. Everything about this series just makes me so happy. Next book that I would pick up in the springtime is The Switch by Beth O'Leary. So I read this on my Kindle. I don't physically own it, but this is about a woman and her grandmother, and they're both looking for kind of a spark in their life. They're kind of dragging in everyday life, so they're looking for something new, and they decide to switch lives. So you watch them as they switch each other's lives, and they go and do the responsibilities of that other person, and they meet new people, and they even strike up new romances. Oh my gosh, everything about this book, it's just a literary fiction, so it's nothing super complicated, but everything about this book just gave me all the good feels. I just loved the granddaughter and grandma like dynamic in it. That's very unique. I just loved that. So yes, The Switch by Beth O'Leary is a great book to pick up in the spring. The next book is also another graphic novel, and that is Tide Song by Wendy Wu. This graphic novel is just the most darling graphic novel. This follows Sophie, and Sophie is a young witch who is really trying hard to get into like the best magic academy. But she's kind of struggling with her magic because she is very young and she's just now getting into it. And so she's sent off to live with another relative who is much wiser with her magic. And when she gets there, she's outside practicing one day towards the tide and accidentally entangles another magical creature in her magic. So things kind of unravel from there, but it's just so cute. I loved Sophie and just the innocence of Sophie and just watching her kind of try and try and try. And I really did enjoy the other characters in this story as well. The next book I want to recommend for the springtime is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. So I would best describe this one as like a young adult version of November 9th by Colleen Hoover. The concepts are basically the same. Boy meets girl and then a girl has to leave. This one is following Natasha and Daniel, and they meet when they're really young, one day just walking through the streets, and they instantly fall for each other. But the problem is they kind of meet like 12 hours before Natasha is being deported to her home in Jamaica. I just thought this was the cutest YA romance. YA romance can be kind of tricky because, I mean, you have to do it correctly. In my opinion, this one is done so well. I truly loved both of these characters and was truly rooting for them the entire time. The excitement that I have to talk about this next book is very real. And that is Lovely War by Julie Berry. I could go on for hours and talk about this book. This book is just pure happiness, pure love, pure joy wrapped into one. Be cautious when I say that though, because this is a little bit of a heavier one, because it does talk about war and recruitment, and there's a lot of heaviness in it, but it's just, oh, it's just so good. So this one is another YA romance, and it follows James and Hazel. And James and Hazel meet when they are very young. The problem is that it takes place in London during the times of the First World War. And our friend James is getting recruited off to fight in the war. And so obviously that puts a damper on the romance that they're trying to strike up. But you watch both of them as they are truly devoted to each other through thick and thin, through all of this war that's going on, and they're just so young, which just makes this even better. So there is a different perspective in here. You get the story of what is going on with Hazel and James, but at the same time it switches to the points of view of the Greek mythology gods and goddesses. Now hang on, you get the story of Hazel and James, and then it cuts to this room that is full of gods and goddesses. So the goddess of love, the god of war, all of those gods and goddesses are present in this room, and they are discussing Hazel and James. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Obviously it's a work of fiction, but I cannot say enough good things about this one. And again, the springtime brings me joy. This book brings me joy. The next book is a book that was really popular a couple of years ago, but it still holds a good place in my heart. And that is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. So this follows two sisters who were born black, and as they grow older, one decides that she wants to become white passing, and the other one continues as a black woman. It follows them individually, like how their lives are different from each other, as well as they come back together. And this one is super hard hitting, and I just remember enjoying every single minute of this book. Again, this one was popular for a reason, and I think it's great for the springtime. The next two books I want to talk about are middle grade, and middle grade is not really a genre that I delve into a lot, but I want to get more into it. So this next one is called Sky Pirates by Alex English. Look at this. This one is following an orphan girl named Echo, and Echo lives in this little kingdom, and the ruler of this kingdom has told its people that they cannot go outside of the kingdom walls because there's nothing out there. You don't need to go out there anyway. But Echo is just full of adventure. She has always been rebellious, and she wants to know what is outside those kingdom walls. And I mean, come on, she's got a little blimp here. So obviously she's got a little plan up her sleeve. This one was just simply joy. This next one has been in my heart since I was a child, because I read this the first time in middle school and read it again as an adult. It is a lower middle grade, but so please be aware of that. It does read a little younger, but oh my goodness, it's so good. And that is Ida B by Catherine Hannigan. This story is about a little girl named Ida B, and Ida B is homeschooled, and Ida B lives on an orchard, and she absolutely loves this orchard. She even makes friends with the trees, and she pretends that she can hear them talking to her. And what I loved most about this one is that this is not just a simple story about a little girl. This follows her, and her mom actually ends up getting sick. I believe it's with cancer. And so obviously that is pretty heavy in a middle grade, but it is just so good. I kind of want to tear up just talking about it because this book means so much to me. It does read really young, so please be aware of that, but it's just so heartfelt and so wholesome. The next one I want to talk about is also another one that I read a couple of years ago, but I just cannot stop thinking about, and that is The Girl with the Louding Voice by, I'm gonna butcher their name, I'm so sorry, Abby Dere. Okay, I'm gonna put up a picture of the cover here so you know exactly who it's by. So this one is another heavier one because it does talk about some things in here that are pretty heavy, but honestly I didn't think that I would enjoy this one as much as I did. I still think about this book to this day. This one is following a 14-year-old girl named Adunni, and Adunni is from a little Nigerian town. Basically, her and her family are really financially struggling, so her father actually sells her into a forced marriage at 14. So again, this is a heavier one, but you kind of watch Adunni kind of grow up in this terrible circumstance and overcome so many different obstacles and so many different things. She is such a powerful character. I loved Adunni. She is constantly trying to better herself. She really wants to be educated. She really wants to learn new things, but in her circumstance it really isn't possible, and so you watch her overcome that. I cannot say enough good things about this one. This is one that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and honestly I think everyone should read this one. Again, it is a heavier one with a few heavier topics, but I promise that you'll love it. The next one is also another graphic novel, and I just read this one recently actually, and that is Sheets by Brenna Thumler. I mean, come on! Don't you just want to pick this up? I mean, don't you just see this book and know that it's going to bring you so much joy? I mean, just take a look at the color palette in it. This little graphic novel is following our main character, Marjorie. And Marjorie and her family have had some hardships. Her mother has just recently passed away and has left her with a laundromat to run. Her dad is in mourning and is just basically not helping at all. And so Marjorie is forced to run this laundromat by herself. In this world, basically when someone dies, they become a ghost that is covered in a sheet. And one day, this particular little ghost, his name is Wendell, and Wendell is whisked away accidentally and ends up in Marjorie's laundromat. I promise you, I think everyone would enjoy this graphic novel. The springtime is my favorite time of year. So the next two books are my favorite books of all time. One of those is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and I'm sure that you've heard about this one. I'm sure, like 99% sure you have. And if you've not watched the movie, do that, but read the book first. This book means so much to me, and I can't even really explain to you why. I grew up and still live in a very small Tennessee rural town, okay? And so there are lots of wildlife. I grew up next to a creek. I grew up wanting to be outside constantly, and so this book just means so much to me because it reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of how I grew up wanting to go outside and just walk around in the creek. And I know it's not the same, but I just cannot describe to you the feelings that I got when I read this book. So if for some reason you have no idea what this book is about, I'll tell you really quickly. This one is following Kaya. Kaya did not have a good family situation. Her mom left because of her dad. Her dad was abusive when she was a little girl. and her dad continued to be abusive, and he drank a lot, and so he wasn't there for her, and so she kind of had to fend for herself. And Kaya and her family lived in a small little marsh kind of off to themselves. And this story is literally just following Kaya and her growing up into the circumstances that she was given. Simultaneously, there is a dual timeline here. The other timeline is in the future, where there's been a murder take place, and Kaya is the #1 suspect. Again, we'd be here all day. If you guys want me to talk about this one all day, I mean, I will gladly sit down and talk, okay? I promise, but you probably don't want that. You probably have stuff to do. So I will just leave you with this. This is one of my favorite books of all time, and I think you should read it, especially during the spring. I saved the best for last, and that is my favorite book of all time, the book that got me back into reading, and that is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. This is a classic book. Again, this is one of those books that I cannot truly tell you how much this means to me. Again, this was the book that got me back into reading. It made me fall in love with reading and books, and it's kind of made me who I am. So I know that's pretty deep, but I mean, I'm serious. I just adore this book so much. This story is about a little orphan girl named Anne, and Anne is adopted by Marilla and Matthew Colbert. And originally they were just adopting an orphan because they needed a boy to be able to work around their farm, but they accidentally ended up with Anne, and they decide that they're going to keep her despite it being an accident. It just ensues from there. It kind of follows her growing up with Matthew and Marilla. Matthew and Anne just have the cutest relationship. It's kind of like a dad and a daughter relationship, and I just adore it so much. I just love Anne. I aspire to be like Anne, to be honest, because she just finds joy in just the littlest things. And yeah, I know I just went on a passionate rant about this book, and if you have not read this one, I highly recommend you do. This is the perfect spring read. And there you have it, my friends. Those are all the books that I recommend that you read in the springtime. All those books, every single one that I talked about today, brought me some kind of joy in some way, just like the beautiful sunshine brings me so much joy after all these cold winter months. So I hope that you got some recommendations today. If you did, please leave me a flower emoji of any kind, because we are all here for the sunshine and the flowers for springtime. Please let me know down below what you will be reading this spring, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!